I say, hey guys, what's up? It's another day, it's another video, it's another session. So today I have with me a very special guest. Her name is Chelsea Thomas Benoit. I do not know if I pronounced your last name right. I honestly don't know.
So it's Chelsea Thomas Benoit. It's
But
French, but don't stress
alright.
yourself. It's fine.
Alright, so she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. You know, if she wants to include her mantra, her motto, what motivates her, whatever it is. Let's
Right.
hear from you.
Okay. So hi guys. My name is Chelsea Thomas Benoit. I just want to thank you, Miss Neil, Chalisa. Is that right? Chalisa, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right, Chalisa. Right. Right. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and talk about something that I am passionate about, which is definitely mental health. And interpersonal dynamics is one of my favorite topics. In university for my bachelor's. So I'm happy that you invited me. Thank you so much. Something that I live by, I think I live by being intentional. I always tell myself that I must be intentional in everything that I do. So for me, yeah, definitely being intentional, being someone with a purpose. I came to Jamaica with a plan, and I'm happy that I'm executing that plan. So right now in my life, I'm really just about achieving goals, building an empire, and just
Yeah.
making moves and just being the best version of myself I can possibly be. So yeah.
Okay, that's really good. A lot of people I don't think are very intentional in what they do, and it's something that
Right.
I'm learning at the moment. So guys, I will definitely leave her social medias down below so you can go follow your girl, because she got some amazing pictures and amazing stuff on her
Oh,
profile. Wow.
thank you, thank you, love.
All right. So the first question I have for you is from a gender perspective, do you think there's a
Mhm.
difference between how men and women handle conflict?
Conflict. Okay, so I'll definitely say yes, there
Mhm.
is a difference. But okay, so when we start off as babies and adolescents, right? The way that males and females tend to handle conflict is completely different. So I brought up this slide before we talk about gender and whatever. Let's just define what conflict is, if people understand what conflict is, right?
Okay.
So conflict is expressed as a struggle between two individuals. So basically, it's when, for example, you and I have two different perspectives about something, and we do not agree on this specific situation, and then we're not seeing eye to eye. So then conflict is brought up. So it expresses a struggle between at least two independent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from the other party in achieving their goals. Right?
Okay.
So it's basically when you're fighting for something. For example, you're going to see conflict when they see scarce resources. You're talking about, for example, like let's say perfect example when they say five shoes left in the store. It's a big sale, and you have about 10, 50 people in the store. Everybody want them shoes, you understand? Then it's going to become a conflict and everybody's fighting for the same thing. Incompatible goals. For example, this may happen in intimate relationships where you may be heading on one path and then the other person's heading on a completely different path. Then what happens? You're butting heads, you're not seeing eye to eye. Conflict is, brought up there. So, yeah, so that's how we define conflict. In terms of gender differences now, I definitely say that females tend to be, a woman. I try not to use females. Women, they tend to be persons who want to find a solution. They try to compromise as much as possible. But they're very subliminal and indirect with how they handle conflict. On the other hand, men now, they're more direct. They tend to put off the conflict. They don't want to talk about it right now. They tend to want to protect their egos and protect their stance, and they don't want to back down necessarily. So they might just brush it off. They might just ignore it. Whereas women, on the other hand, they tend to be a little bit more emotional, a little bit more indirect, and they want to handle it now. You understand? So, but actually, research actually tell you that maybe 66% of times, 2 to 3 times, you'd find that the gender is not that significant. The gender rule is not that significant. It's more just about you, yourself, and the person that you're having the conflict with. in order to solve it. Because I mean, everybody has their own personality type, their personality style, that sort of thing. So some people may want some, regardless of if you're male or female, may want to solve it one time, whereas on the other hand, some people may not. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's really good though. That's really good.
Yeah.
So, do you think like this can be linked to like the workplace and how both gender are handled? Yes, I know genders don't really play a big part, like
Big parts.
66%. Yeah, but do you think how people are treated in the workplace, then there is a issue with the gender?
Okay, so definitely I'll say yes. Funny enough, it's so funny. So funny enough, we could talk about workplace. I'm the first female CAC, as you would know.
Yeah.
And in my tenure, I was surrounded by males, especially on the event management committee. I was surrounded by males. It was myself, Christina, the president, and Gabby. But because Christina, she wasn't involved as much in the event management team as much because, you know, that's just not her vibe exactly. I mean, she's president, but she had other things to do with vice president as well. So CAC portfolio was really me. And then I had an event management team where the vice president was the sponsorship rep was male. The treasurer was male. You know, the resident advisor was male. You understand what I mean? And the office manager was male. So it's like, especially coming in as a first female as well, you know, breaking barriers and, you know, creating history in and of itself. That in itself caused a bit of conflict because, you know, persons would have been like, oh, why should I have to be female and females can't do it. And then on top of that, I'm not Jamaican as well. So it was another type of conflict coming in. So I'll definitely say that, you know, women have it a bit more difficult in terms of workplace conflicts because they tend to be in the minority depending on the industry that you're in. So, for example, I now work with corporate Jamaica, and I'm telling you, in my office, from what I've seen thus far, because I've just started last week, it's mainly men. You know, and even some women would say it as well, you know, especially in marketing, entertainment, it's mainly males. You don't find a lot of women entertainment managers, especially, you know, in the entertainment industry. If you really look at it, the persons that head, you know, a lot of committees like Jamaica, Exodus, if you look at Dream Weekend, if you look at, you know, all these event committees, it's mainly males. You understand? So definitely, I can see where conflict would arise. We have, you know, where they talk about the ceiling, the glass ceiling, where, you know, men tend to be paid more. They tend to get promoted faster than females. And, you know, it's just a bit of, that in itself can bring about conflict. So definitely.
I think that even brings us all the way back to, you know, history in the whole patriarchal society and what women are called to and what they're not called to and what they can do and stuff. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out. And again, as the first CEAC, being a female and stuff, I can imagine some of the tension that you went through. But again, if we know how to handle conflict, then it's easier to work with because it will seem as though I'm not trying to take away a position or threaten your position or your ego, but I'm just here to help. So the other thing I want to ask is, were you taught conflict resolutions or did you have to figure it out on your own?
So for me, luckily, as a psychology major, I was definitely taught about conflict resolution styles. And I'm thankful that I was taught that because I try as much as possible to use that in my everyday, day-to-day relationships, intimate relationships, social relationships, even workplace relationships. You know what I mean? So I definitely was taught. I think everybody should be taught about conflict resolutions. I definitely think that interpersonal dynamics should be a mandatory course in UE, no doubt. Because, you know, we learn that there are different types of conflict resolution. So we have avoiding, we have compromise. So no, so I'm actually gonna go through it now. I'm gonna use the slides to go through it. So we talked about, you know, defining conflict, and, you know, we want to make sure, you know, we understand that conflict is natural, conflict can also be beneficial. People tend to fear conflict, but sometimes, you know, it happens, and it's just the way that we go about it, right? So there are 4 conflict styles. So we have avoiding, accommodating, competing, and collaborating. So in avoiding, you don't want to deal with the conflict at all. There's no way, Jose, which is something that in Trinidad we say, no way, Jose. So, you know, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to deal with it. Accommodating, is your way, meaning that I might put aside what are my needs in order to give you what you want. Competing is when I say, no, it's me, it's my way. And then collaborators is when we come together and we say, you know, you lose some, I lose some, how can we, you know, that sort of thing. So avoiding, which is lose-lose, right? So it's when people non-assertively ignore or stay away from conflict. Avoidance reflects a pessimistic attitude about conflict under the belief that there is no way to solve the problem at hand, and avoiding often results in a lose-lose outcomes in which one of the parties can get what they want. None of the parties can get what they want. So again, you're just avoiding it completely, right?
Yeah.
Then accommodating. So this occurs when others try to have their way rather than asserting your point of view. If accommodation is genuine acts of kindness, generosity, or love, then chances are good that it will enhance the relationship. People from high context, collectivist backgrounds are likely to regard avoidance and accommodating as face saving. So, for example, high context and collectivist backgrounds tend to be part of the like for example, China is a collectivist country, whereas United States of America is considered an individualistic country. The Caribbean region, we are seen as more individualistic than collectivistic. So, for example, you know, in China, in India, in those sorts of places, more on that side of the world, in the Asian part of the world, they tend to avoid conflict at all costs. So they might say, you know, you have your way, and I just forget about my point of view. It's not worth it. You get what I mean? Understand, right? So we have competing, which is win-lose, and that is when you assert yourself. It's direct aggression. When you express criticism and you demand and you threaten the face of another. So it's when you say, this is my stance and I'm not compromising on it. This is how it needs to go, right? Passive aggression tends to be a lot what women may use. But when you have an argument with your boyfriend and you say, and he asks you, should I go out with my friends tonight? And then you're like, and then you kind of want it like a passive aggressive. So then you're like, sure, man, go ahead, man. Very sarcastic, like, it's cool, it's fine, it's all right, I'm fine. That's an example of passive aggression, right? So that's where we see, it's my way, it must be my way, when you try to guilt trip people, for example, right? And the last one is compromising, which is partial lose-lose. So it's when it gives both parties some of what they want, although both sacrifice parts of their goals. And compromising actually negotiates a solution where both lose something. Some compromise do leave both parties satisfied. So that is really where we see, I'm taking a bit of what I want, I'm taking a bit of what you want, and we both coming together to find a middle ground. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
All right.
I think it's good that you pointed out the four, is it four? You pointed out the different four ways where you can have conflict, in the sense where I think a lot of people think that it's either you address it or you don't address it. And
right.
A lot of people don't think that there's passive aggressive and direct aggressive or just complete avoidance overall.
Right.
And you brought up something where I remember listening or reading, I don't remember which one, but I remember one of them. And they were talking about when people accommodate too much or when they compromise too much, and it feels as though they're losing their self or losing their voice. So I want to hear from you if you think that people accommodate too much, if there's such a thing as accommodating too much and actually losing part of yourself in the process.
Okay, so I think definitely accommodating can be, you can accommodate too much, definitely, for me. I think especially when you love someone and you really just want the best for them, and you don't want to have the arguments, and you don't want to step on their toes, and your relationship is already rocky. You tend to sacrifice your wants and your needs in order to satisfy them. So, for example, we talk about love languages, right? There are 5 love languages. So there's acts of service, there's physical touch, there's I could say there's physical touch, there's words of affirmation, receiving gifts, and quality time. I always forget about
I
quality
always
time.
forget one.
Yes, quality time, right? So, for example, accommodating would be, for example, where you value quality time so much, but the other person that's like their weakest love language, and they want to receive gifts. So then you try to like not bother them too much, not ask them to hang out too much, and you try to like shove them with gifts, and that sort of thing. But then you start to feel as though you're losing out. You start to feel as though you're compromising too much. So I think definitely there comes a time when you can definitely accommodate too much, most definitely.
So then, to tie into that, then a lot of people need to be educated on emotional intelligence then,
Definitely.
because if you're going to address the 5 love languages, obviously somebody's still going to lose out, because not everybody knows
Right.
how to love properly. Not everybody knows what gets your attention, what doesn't get your attention, what triggers you, what doesn't trigger you, and how to address your emotions at the moment. Because some people
Right.
do introspection or look into themselves and find out why they are the way they are and how to communicate properly with other people.
Right.
So I remember somebody asking a question on the registration, and they were saying that, do you think that the reason many people are ineffective in this area is because of what they observe or experience? So are they ineffective in conflict resolution because of how they grew up, where they grew up, what they observed, where the family friend?
Definitely. So also in psychology we talk about your past experiences tend to shape how you are in the future. So for example, if your parents never gave you the opportunity to express your emotions, if your parents never gave you the opportunity to say how you feel, mommy, this bothers me because of this, this bothers me because of that, then you tend to take that attitude into future relationships where you have poor resolution skills, which is exactly why it's really important that we know about emotional intelligence, we know about interpersonal dynamics, because it can definitely help with how we deal with situations, especially if we see that our parents as well have horrible conflict resolution skills, always arguing, always at each other, that sort of thing. So most definitely it's a lot of what you learn and what you see, and then you have to be taught in order to change that. And it's a work in progress, because all habits die hard. So yeah.
So a quick one. What are three? You can name more than one, more than three. But what are three top things that you would give somebody to resolve conflict? Sorry. What are three key ways?
Okay, three key ways. For me personally, I'm very big on the collaborating conflict style. And I would say sit down and write out exactly what you need. Both of you guys, sit down. First of all, understand why the conflict occurred. That's the first thing. Understand why the conflict occurred. The next step after you figure that out, sit down and understand how do I feel about this? How do you feel about that? What do I need? What do you need? And then sit down and try to understand, where can I cut back? Where can you cut back? Especially if it's an intimate relationship, especially if you're in a living situation, you want to try to come to a common ground as much as possible. It's not always going to be a win-win. It's not always going to be a win-lose or a lose-lose. It's always just better to, sometimes just sit down and come together. That's one thing. In some cases, the accommodating style can help, depending on on how severe the situation is. So if you know that it's really just petty, and you know it's really just petty, just try to be the bigger person. Sometimes it's just better to say, what, it's fine, it's all right. Not everything has to be an argument. Not everything is even worth an argument. So sometimes if you just don't see eye to eye, just give them their time. Just say, what, love, okay, no problem. You have it your way for now, no problem, cool. And sometimes it's just better to do that. Do you understand? And then for me, sometimes you really need to just stand your ground, and you really just need to say, what, this is what I want, and you have to know your worth, and you have to evaluate your worth in order to know if the competing style is going to work for you. You understand? Because sometimes you can only accommodate so much, and you can only compromise so much. And then sometimes when person just take advantage of you, because people
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
then you have to just evaluate the situation. Always evaluate the situation, and then try to see like, okay, I definitely cannot compromise on this. For example, like a love language, I definitely cannot compromise on this. I need quality time because it's draining my energy and it's bothering me that we don't spend time enough. I have evaluated the situation. I have understood my needs and my wants, and I cannot do it. And then you know what? You just say it's okay, and it's okay to leave. It's okay, no problem. Friendships, relationships, it's okay. So definitely those three things. Definitely those three things for me. That's what I try to do at least.
And that's good. The last point especially struck me because a lot of people are afraid of people leaving. And that's a lot of justifying comes into play. And they're
Mm-hmm.
saying, no, he really loves me, or she really loves
Me,
me, or we can
right,
work through this. When the truth
right.
is, y'all are just not made for each other. And it's
Yeah,
so hard because a lot of people also are running away from starting over, especially when they've
right,
experienced heartbreak already, and it feels like
right.
so much energy and time is being put into
Time,
this past relationship
definitely,
and this
definitely.
friendship, and you're like, I can't do this again. I
And
can't.
exactly, right, agreed.
But then what is
10,000.
what is something that you'd advise them, or something that you use to encourage them when it feels as though they're saying that they can't start do it? What is one thing that you definitely point out to them?
Mm-hmm. Your worth. Definitely your worth. Your sanity, your mental space, your mental health, your worth. Because when you love someone and it's not working out, it takes a mental toll on you. You start to feel sad all the time. You start to kind of slip into a bit of like depression. I try to use depression lightly because we tend to
Yeah.
use depression like so loosely when people really understand what depression is. So I would tend to say that, definitely you feel sad. You feel as though, everything is just not working out. But you have to, if you cannot love someone more than you love yourself. And that's something that people tend to forget. Friendship, mother, father, cousin, sister, everybody, boyfriend, in any relationship, you cannot love someone more than you love yourself. You can't expect someone to love you if you don't even love yourself. So you always have to put your worth at the forefront, no matter what. Because at the end of the day, it's going to take a toll on you. Someone always taking advantage of you is going to take a toll on you. You understand? So definitely that. When it comes to my friends, I have to try to tell them, I always tell my friends pros and cons. Make a list of the pros and the cons. All if the pros are with the cons, and sometimes the cons are worth like 10 points. So because we love to say, he treats me right and I listen long, but then the number one con, he cheats. Baby girl, that covers the entire of the other side. Okay? And then covers the entire of the other side. He lies to me. That covers the entire of the other side. You understand? So it's not really just like a 1, 1, 1, 1, but also try to give it some weight. Give it some weight. So definitely pros and cons, weigh your options, put yourself first. It's okay to be selfish sometimes. I tend to be a very selfless person. I try my best to be. I am one of those people, I probably do accommodating more than I do collaborating. Because I'm kind of person, I hate conflict. Once I do, and I shouldn't say that, but I do not like it. It gives me a lot of anxiety. So I try to avoid it as much as possible. So I would just say, you know what? It's fine. Your way, no problem. But sometimes I do have a competing attitude, or I do say, okay, let's work it out together, or whatever the case is. So, evaluate the situation, pros and cons. Put weights on it as well. Make a list. Put yourself first. Love yourself more than you love the other person. That's why I try to tell my friends, at least, when they come and ask me for advice.
Definitely. And I can agree with you because I don't like conflict as myself. So I literally either just accommodate or completely try to avoid. But there are situations, especially when you're being lied on, there are situations where you definitely like, look, I'm putting my foot down right now because this is not true. This is not
Competing,
me.
definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So we're gonna get a little personal, a little personal. But are you in a relationship at the moment?
No, I'm not.
All right. So there was a question that I did have as a female in a relationship, but I think you can still answer because I'm sure
Yeah,
that you've had a
yeah,
relationship
yeah,
previously.
yeah,
So as
yeah.
as a female in a relationship, what do you think are some things that shouldn't be done in conflict at all? Like from your spouse, it shouldn't happen at all.
Right. So, yeah, it's just so funny. So I was talking to somebody about this literally just yesterday or 2 days ago. So, what should not be done at all? Ineffective communication. I am a big communicator. So, for me, we have to sit down and talk about what is bothering us. And depending on who's watching this, they're probably going to be laughing and they're gonna be like, but Chelsea, not everybody wants to, deal with the situation at hand right now. Da, da, da. I'm the kind of person. You see, men you fall out, I'm not going to sleep until we figure it out, until we work it out. Because I hate conflict. So I won't be able to sleep. I have a migraine, So ineffective communication is a big no. Sometimes I have to admit sometimes you just need space depending on how severe it is. Sometimes you just need space.
Yeah.
But don't take too long. That's another no. Do not take too long to solve the issue. Do not leave it until next week. Right. So don't leave it until next week. Don't leave it until next week. Don't shout at each other. If you know that it's gonna come into a shouting battle, just leave it. That is how you can leave it. If you know it's coming into a bickering and it's not constructive, just leave it alone. Just say to yourself, you know what? Let's deal with this tomorrow. And if tomorrow is still shouting, let's try again tomorrow. Take some space. Space is okay, And I think sometimes women don't like space unless sometimes when they're in the right, they love to use a little space trick and a little silent treatment. But it's actually not very constructive, Don't shout at each other. Do not, don't start bickering back and forth. Do not wait too long to solve the issue. And I think those are my big no's. And ineffective communication. Try to work on the communication style beforehand. See, people need to talk about these things in a relationship before, because when the argument happens, then you know how to deal with the person. So, for example, if I'm talking to somebody now, I will try to talk about the communication. If I realize that in the early times, like there are certain things I don't like about the communication, I'm going to express that, because in a relationship, if you cannot communicate, then it don't make no sense. They say that, trust is a big thing in relationships. Communication and effective listening is also just as important. Because if you cannot communicate and if you cannot listen to each other effectively, then it doesn't make sense. So that's definitely my big nose.
That's true. That is so true. Okay. So, but do you think that females tend to want to always blame the male, or we are more of the settling side? So we're more of the accommodating side?
I think it depends on the situation, definitely. For me, let me just think about myself. I don't know. For me, I think I can't speak for all females, and I don't have the research or the statistics to say. But from experience and from my friends, I kind of feel like my friends are very accommodating. But when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm the kind of person that I ain't afraid to tell you when you're wrong. You understand? So I don't know. I think a little bit of both. I think it depends on the situation. I think when he's flat out wrong, then I think definitely you're more like, I ain't accommodating, like you wrong. But then I also think that a woman, here's an example. So, you know how women, when the guy cheats on the girl, and then the girl blames the girl more than she blames the guy? That is definitely where you're accommodating, because why are you blaming the girl for? She has an obligation. Right? She has an obligation to you. Blame the guy. And I think that is where a lot of women feel in terms of the conflict styles. You are blaming the wrong person. Blame the guy. You understand? And I think that plays into, loving the person so much, not wanting to lose them. Yeah. You know that they are so wrong, but, and again, depending on who's watching this, My friends are watching this. They're gonna tell me, Chelsea, monogamy is not for everybody. So I'm gonna say this: if he has stated to you and he has committed to you that you know you are mine and not going to cheat on you and he cheats, he's wrong. So yes. So yeah.
Okay, so I know you've given us different scenarios, but I want you to give us an example that happened to you or that you observed in person and where you had to be the peacemaker. What was the process like? What was your thought process? And what was the outcome of the conflict?
I don't have to. Okay, let me just think deep down. Where I was the peacemaker. I think I tend to be the peacemaker sometimes. Okay. Just looking back on my past relationship, I can say that there would have been times where I'm flat out wrong. Oh, okay, perfect. Depending on who's watching this. Okay. So again, because I like to solve situations and I'm very expressive with my emotions, I definitely want to fix it now, and I want you to know how it's making me feel. And I tend not to give the other person a chance to just ease it. So I think there have been times where a situation comes up and we're both or whatever the case is, and then I would say that I'm fine. I would sit down and I'll internalize it, and then after like 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm going at him, and I was like, I don't like how you said this, or this made me feel like this, and whatever the case is, and that in itself would have upset him because he is more of a avoiding type of person. Okay. That is his conflict style. He don't talk about it right now at all. We're not talking about it. So you can imagine the clash because I want to talk about it and you don't want to talk about it. So for me, again, in a relationship, you need to understand the person you're dealing with. And I realized that I was wrong and how I approached the situation, and I had to just come to him and say, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And it's okay to be the bigger person sometimes. I think sometimes women hate to be the bigger person because, pride and ego. But I say, I'm sorry. I should not have done this. This made me feel like this. But the way that I went about it was wrong. And I am sorry. And I think that also helps the communication, and it also helps with resolving the situation. Yeah. It's not something that we tend to do. In the past, what we did, we used to make a list on our phone of all the things that bothered us with each other. So we would write out, I do not like when you did this, I do not like when you said this. And even if it takes 4 hours on a call, on a FaceTime call, if it takes 4 hours in person, we always made sure at that time in that situation to discuss it. We discussed it, we wrote it out, and he went through his points, I went through my points, and then at the end of the day, we were good because we understood each other. So sometimes it's okay to be doing a person.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to really, I guess, get a convenient time between the two, because right. I think a lot of times we use the excuse like we're too busy or we can't handle this right now or da 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 da.
Yeah.
Not realizing that.
Too busy, yeah? You can be busy, yes. Everybody's busy. But I kind of feel like sometimes we use the whole busy thing too loosely. If you really want to resolve an issue, and if you really want to do something for somebody, you can do it. That's just my belief, though. Not everybody believes that. So.
Same here, though. I mean, we've been growing up on the saying that we prioritize what we want, and you make time for who's important to you. So it goes back to all of that. If you don't want to resolve it, it will be shown, right?
Right.
But one of the things that you also said is the fact that you guys made a list. Like, I'm just like, wait, okay. You guys made a list? So I'm like, okay. And then you guys took the time to resolve it. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't do the pros and the cons. A lot of people don't take the time to say, all right, this is how I felt. Why did I feel like this?
Right.
And I was reading something even on Instagram recently about the, I think, accusing language versus the assertive language. And I
Right.
think a lot of us are more accusing,
You think.
saying that you're the reason why I'm like this, or you're the reason why I can't sleep at
Mhm.
night, and da 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 da. Instead of saying that I couldn't sleep because I felt like this. I was
Right.
hurt because you did
Right.
this. Right?
Right.
So, and it's different tones, just as how you mentioned, not shouting and stuff. It's different tones. It's not always what you say, but how you say
How
it.
you say it?
So totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. So I, we're done. That's so crazy. we're
Pardon?
we're done. We're
We're
actually
done.
yes. That was so quick and so good. So, you have anything else you'd like to say to my people? Before you leave, any advice, anything else?
I mean, I don't know. I would just say that you guys, people who are watching, definitely try to work on your conflict styles, research it. I think in a relationship, especially intimate relationships, understand your partner, understand the person that you're dating. I think you to take some time to really learn someone, their quirks, their ifs, their take some time to understand the person that you're with, because conflict is always going to happen no matter what, and you want to ensure that when it does happen, that you two are both going to deal with it properly. Because if you love somebody, you want it to last and stuff, and conflicts, if not resolved correctly, can definitely be a deal breaker. So that's what you guys understand the person that you're with, learn about them, do research, read together, learn together. I think that's very important. So yeah, that's just my little 2 cents.
And guys, don't just take all of this to relationship. Add it to your friendships.
Exactly.
Because
Definitely.
I think a lot of people, we don't resolve conflict, and then we end up losing some really, really good people in our lives. We can't get them back, obviously.
Right.
We can't get them back. So I think to really educate yourself on, as you said previously, communication and emotional intelligence, it would really, really help to get to know the person that you're with, the person that you're becoming friends with. Because you have to understand that not initially, everybody won't let you know what's happening in their life. They won't let you know the bad and the good is about themselves. They kind of just see face value what you're getting. But as you get deeper in your friendship, as you get deeper in your relationship, you'll actually see who the person really is. And don't let it scare you either. Because I think a lot of people, once them see the ugly side, they want to cut. And that's not how friendships and relationship work.
So true.
So it's better to learn how to resolve your conflicts so you can become better persons, and you can develop a deeper and better and intimate relationship and friendship.
Right.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And guys, I'm telling you, this is a wonderful young lady. As I said, she has impeccable leadership. And she's a go-getter. I've actually realized that we haven't talked a lot on campus, but following up with your work and stuff, and just how you go ahead at the events that you're planning again, being intentional with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate your work, and I'm really excited for what you have for your future, because I just feel like you're a go-getter and you're ready for it, and fear excitement and bashment. So again, thank you so much for sharing and having that PowerPoint explaining what conflict was. It was really informative, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave your questions below if anything, because we'll still be in the chat, and we'll answer you guys. So that's it for today. Thank you again, and have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.